Welcome to GottaRun. This is Will Sanchez. My special guest today is the Putnam Nature Trail. This trail has been enjoyed for over 40 years by the local community. Actually, it belongs to everybody. That may soon be history because City Parks has plans to transform the trail into a 10-foot wide bicycle speedway. Today, we will meet some folks who will share their views with us. Gotta run.
Hi, I'm Jeff Galloway, U.S. Olympian. In my research for the book Trail Running, I discovered some interesting things about trails in metro areas. First of all, they're diminishing. Secondly, once a trail area has been discontinued, there aren't any trails that take its place. And the quality of life and running in our metro areas goes down as a result of that.
I just got my new mountain bike, so I ride it after school with my friends, and this place is amazing. I love watching the frogs hop on the lily pads, and it's a really cool place actually. I want it natural.
I love taking my kids here on the Putnam Trail. I've taken my children ever since they were very young. When my youngest was only a few months old, we would take him in our little baby Bjorn strapped on. When he got a little older, we would try and push him on the stroller, but of course it is a trail and it's supposed to be. So we would take him out and carry him, and we would let him run in the mud because we wanted him to experience nature.
If you came to Van Cortlandt Park in a couple of years, would you want to come on this trail and see it as a wide road that's paved with asphalt, or would you like to see it as an environment like it is right now, where there's leaves on the ground?
Like this.
I've been a resident of the area for 10 years, and the Putnam Trail has always been my go-to place to find real peace and in a beautiful environment surrounded by a very urban concrete jungle. I come here with my son to go, nature walking. I come with my wife for romantic setting. I come to ride my bike. I come here for a walk. I come here for a run. I come here to look at the birds and the beautiful trees and all the natural wonder in the forest.
And also just to be there and seeing all the wildlife. Once you get to the paved portion, there's no more rabbits. You don't see the deer. There's not so many birds.
Over the 3 years that I've birded along Van Cortlandt and explored the Putnam Trail, I've found a lot of nesting birds. Blue-gray gnatcatchers, red-bellied woodpeckers, yellow warblers, downy woodpeckers, one or two hairy woodpeckers we'd find, Baltimore orioles, orchard orioles. If the plan goes ahead to cut all the trees down that they're planning to remove to pave this trail, most of those birds will lose the habitat that's required for them to nest.
But 10 foot of asphalt for bikes, 3 foot for runners. Runners have got to pass each other when they're going in the opposite direction, and they're just going to pull out in front of a cyclist, and it's going to be nasty. It's not safe.
I think it would be a loss for older runners who really can't run on pavement anymore, and it's a real place for us to save our knees and be able to continue doing marathons. I think it would be a loss for any community who really wants to get out off the pavement for a moment.
I just really like the feeling that there's other animals watching me. Bunnies, birds, geese, lots of geese. And I'm not only being cheered on by humans.
I use it as an escape from my daily grind. It's not being in social work. I don't have the luxury of being able to travel around a lot. This is sacred ground to me. It feels sacred. In some cases, it's as close as I can get to nature. And so, leave my trail alone.
And if you just pave over it, it's sort of like bringing a piece of the concrete jungle into our trail.
So let's talk about the real reason why some people here want to have a stone dust trail. And the reason is they want it to fail. They are selfish people who want the trail only for themselves. The cross-country runners who want to stage marathons and other events, then they do not want to be troubled by cyclists and skaters and scooters and wheelchair users. In other words, the rest of the people of the city who want to use the Putnam Trail.
79,200 square feet of asphalt that the city plans to dump on our beautiful nature trail. We hope that we can stop that, and it should be stopped because it's a wrong idea.
40 years ago, it was torn up and has become what I would consider one of the better nature trails in the city.
And sometimes there's something out of the ordinary that pops up that is amazing, and people come from all over to see it.
The warbling vireo that I doubt very much there's any place in the city that has the kind of density in population that this short stretch of trail does.
The idea that we can't work out some kind of accommodation, either just by a very modest expenditure of tidying up small portions of this hard-packed trail. And I do not understand why the Parks Department has been so consistently dishonest in its description of what they intended to do and how they've gone about and done it.
They can put down a surface called stone dust that would fit in with the park's character and its history. Stone dust actually costs no more than asphalt to maintain per year.
The position of the Parks Department on this matter is that we pave as a matter of course. And this particular project we're doing to increase accessibility, to increase usership, and to make this project sustainable.
Now, we're talking about stone screenings. Stone screenings are considered an accessible path of travel. It's firm, stable, slip-resistant surface at times. Firm, stable, slip-resistant surface isn't there when it rains, and it isn't there when it's not maintained properly. It just isn't a reality. We have people here, including myself, that have tried stone screenings. You know what? When it's dry and it's great, and it's maintained well, it's great. But when it's not, which is 90% of the time, we hit potholes, we fall. That's important. You know, we talked, everything up on that screen had everything to do with a walker. Didn't have anything to do with a wheel. Had nothing to do with wheelchairs. It had nothing to do with accessibility for people with disabilities. Everybody in this room will be disabled at some point, know someone that's disabled, or be temporarily disabled. We're only building for our future. And having an accessible path of travel that's firm, stable, slip resistance that will be maintained properly, like asphalt, will be the better choice for people with disability.
That paving it would really serve no purpose that serves my interest anyway, because I'm getting old and I fall down, and I would rather fall on this than on pavement. It's really nasty.
The silvery checker spot, like most butterflies, has strict requirements in order to survive. And in their case, they require the plant woodland sunflower. Now, this sunflower, just like any flower, is going to grow on natural soil, not pavement. So it's almost without question that a lot of the sunflower is going to be destroyed in the process, and a very good chance that we may lose this butterfly from New York entirely.
Plenty of parents come out here with their children. You know, kids like to dig, they like to get dirty. Let them do it.
Hi, I'm Catherine Switzer. I won the New York City Marathon in 1974. I've been lucky to be running for 53 years, and I think one of the reasons I have stayed mostly injury-free is because I run on trails and dirt surfaces only. So of course, I'm not in favor of asphalting any of nature's trails, because paving the trail greatly increases injuries. We know that. Whether it's walkers, runners, or even dogs, they all thrive when they exercise on natural dirt surfaces.
As you can see, this is a very special place. This is Will Sanchez, and I gotta run.
Hail the Putnam Trail, don't cover up what's left of the old railroad. Let our people carry through, save the pavement for Madison Avenue. Hail, hail the Putnam Trail, don't cover up what's left of the old railroad. Let our people carry through, save the pavement for Madison Avenue.
statement was made that it costs no more to maintain stone dust than it does to maintain asphalt. Is somebody prepared to speak to that?
So we've actually found that stone dust is actually more to build, because typically you have to dig a deeper foundation because it requires more material to create that firm, solid surface. And see, it was a number about $8 a square yard more than asphalt in our experience. To build.
We currently maintain, what do you have, 36 miles of trails in Van Cortlandt Park. 13 miles of it is paved. 1 mile of it is for bikes. 3.7 miles is stone dust. We just had, we used the FEMA money to measure each of these trails. The 3.7 miles, we have not been able to maintain well over the years. The FEMA money that has come recently was to help us deal with erosion issues. So actually the last 6 months are the best 6 months. Now those, what's needed for that is stone dust, yes. Gravel, which has to go underneath it. When they go to repair a rut, anytime it rains, if there's a rut that hits 2 inches, that's a trip hazard, so we're required to fix them. And then you have to rake out that whole area, replace the gravel, replace stone dust. Then we have to go rent a pneumatic tamper. First you have to hand tamp it. Then you have to bring in the pneumatic tamper. You have to bring in a water truck because you can't tamp just the dry surface, right? You have to wet it down. And, you know, that takes 2 or 3 people. And it takes a few hours to do just 100 square feet. So that's the steps it takes to maintain it. Thank you. After every rain, we have ruts.
This is our presentation to support the case for leaving the Putnam Trail in a more natural state, the advantages of that, and the disadvantages of widening and paving it.
It became clear to us that hundreds of trees and shrubs would be felled and the understory would be destroyed if the 1.5-mile path were to be widened to 15 feet. Parks has made many different claims as to the number of trees to be removed. Rather than planting saplings, we would like to see existing trees live to maturity.
The current park administration considers the Putnam Trail an abandoned rail trail full of weeds and invasive species, but previous park administrations had a very different view, and one that we support in the interests of nature. This map of the park shows all the nature trails, including the Putnam.
This is taken from the Van Cortlandt Park Conservancy's own website. We're talking about preserving what little is left of the wetlands. According to Webster's Dictionary, a conservancy is an organization dedicated to conserve and protect natural resources.
To the left of the trail, you see the marsh, a mere 23 feet away. To the right, you can see the downward slope of the land going toward the lake.
One of the animals that would be adversely affected by paving is the snapping turtle. The increase in water temperature affects sex determination and could result in the early hatching of turtles, which would decrease their likelihood of survival.
Asphalt contains many carcinogens. It requires regular maintenance, which means more asphalt over time. Otherwise, it breaks down, as you see today in trails throughout Van Cortlandt Park. This is a small sample of asphalt from one of Van Cortlandt Park's many asphalt trails that are now crumbling. This is a small sample. I could have brought in buckets of this stuff. And another thing about asphalt, when it freezes, it is not slip resistant.
This is what we're trying to prevent from happening to our beautiful Putnam Trail. It's sterile.
We reject this claim that the tree canopy will be preserved under the Parks Department plan. some nice computer graphics before, but that's the reality of the tree canopy. And you can see, looking at the 15-foot mock-up, what will actually be destroyed. As early as 1986, Van Cortlandt Park acknowledged that runoff from pavement has undesirable effects.
Okay, those slides speak for themselves.
As well as the proximity of the trail to the wetlands that we're trying to not see further degraded.
Next slide, please. These two slides show that currently the marsh, lake, and Putnam Trail provide critical habitat for a variety of waterfowl, migratory, and nesting birds. Long-term birders have noticed a dramatic decline in species over the decades. Paving the trail would cause a major disruption to this habitat, exacerbating this decline in species. The birds we now see may never return.
Here's a sampling of birds recently seen on and around the Putnam Trail. Let's give nature the benefit of the doubt and conserve what's left.
Naturalized plants are those that have been introduced, but wildlife has adapted to make use of them.
This shows that there are more than Norway maples on this trail. We favor selective removal of invasive species if necessary, not clear cutting. The Putnam Trail shows us the resilience and diversity of nature as it recovers from its former days as a rail trail. There are plenty of common native trees on this trail right now that should stay there.
There is also a diverse array of wildflowers and shrubs in the understory, crucial habitat for resident and migratory birds, and which also provides ground cover for them and other animals. The understory is not scruffy stuff we need to get rid of, as described by some pro-pavers.
Just a nice picture. We question this public statement by New York City Parks that only 7 live trees will be removed, while giving differing numbers to DEC. We refute the premise that nature has to first be destroyed and paved over before it can then be restored.
Birders, bikers, runners, and hikers alike have often commented that they prefer to get off the pavement to enjoy the denser canopy and softer earthen path with its curves and natural beauty. We thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dolan and Mr. Turov.
There is no evidence that paving an old railroad bed into a rail trail, into a multi-use trail, harms wildlife or wetlands. I've been up and down the South County Trail, the North County Trail, the Putnam County Trail. I could also put up a slideshow with lots of pictures of wildlife and long lists of wildlife and species that I have seen along the paved sections of the Putnam line. Westchester County and Putnam County were not required to do an environmental impact study for their sections of the trail, and neither should Parks Department in the Bronx. There are more than 12 miles of unpaved trails that will remain unpaved in Van Cortlandt Park for wildlife, people who enjoy wildlife, who want to walk and hike or jog, to enjoy those trails without bicyclists being around. It's the only endangered species are kids on bikes, families on bikes, and teenagers enjoying the trails themselves. So please, I ask the DEC to approve the Parks Department application. Thank you.
I want to speak in part to the board. If you'll excuse my back for the moment, I would like to say that I've been a long-time resident up here. I'm a runner. There was a little clip of me before. I'd like to address a few points that have been made. One of the things that jumped out at me on the Parks Department film was the complete absence of any filming of the trail itself. You saw pictures of the beginning, you saw pictures of the connection with Westchester County, but the trail was absent from their showing, and I think it's been absent from their thinking. Secondly, with respect to the destruction of trees, I think most of you have probably been out there, but if you take a walk on the first half mile, you will see not 4 or 5 trees that have to be destroyed. You will see literally hundreds. Don't take my word for it. Don't take the Parks Department word for it. Go out and take a look.
absolutely false.
Thirdly, with respect to maintenance, and this is interwoven with the comment about the various trails in the park, this trail is flat. Unlike the Muir Trail, the cross-country trail, which I was directly involved in obtaining for the community, this trail is flat, and that makes a difference to any number of users. With respect to maintenance, I can tell you firsthand that in my negotiations with the Parks Department some years ago to improve the maintenance on the cross-country trail, which is substantially hilly, the Road Runners Club of New York gave a grant of $50,000 for maintenance. The 2 full-time employees that were assigned to Van Cortlandt Park were then moved to other parks. In my discussions with the Parks Department representative, I was told, and it was picked up, that this $50,000 could be spread over a 3-year period to achieve the necessary maintenance on the cross-country trail. Now that's the cross-country trail with the hills. If you look at the flat parts of that trail, they're absolutely magnificent after a rain. It's just astonishing how quickly it dries out, how hard the surface is, and how immediately available it is for use. Unlike that trail, what the Parks Department is offering for everybody who is not speeding down the asphalt section is a repeat of dirt. Why wouldn't they make 3 feet of crushed rock? And finally, I want it understood that I am a big supporter of bikes. For the last 10 years, I have been involved in this Hudson River plan, and you heard earlier that crushed rock has been satisfactory to them, and I ask you not to be steamrolled into a decision. There's been no environmental study here, and these are questions that you should insist upon being asked.
I'm here tonight representing Transportation Alternatives. We're a nonprofit who serves all 5 boroughs of New York City. We have 100,000 supporters and 10,000 dues-paying members. We work to advocate for safer streets across New York City for pedestrians, cyclists, and public transit users alike. And we support the Parks Department's proposal to share the Putnam Trail. New Yorkers, as we all know, as New Yorkers, we really struggle to find safe access to our much limited public space. Greenways, as this greenway is proposed, provide a safe and accessible space for all street users. Separated space will keep us out of each other's way and out of harm's way. And I bring that up to address any concerns about cyclists decreasing the value of this greenway. By providing a separate space for cyclists themselves, they will be able to use the space for recreation and transportation corridor while staying out of the way of other slower users, recreational users, walkers, pedestrians, families. Studies across the 5 boroughs show that when greenways are created, which are separated and protected from motor vehicle traffic, they provide a safer space for all street users. From there, we see a greater diversity amongst gender and age of folks who actually use this public space. To reject the Parks Department plan is to deny a large swath of New Yorkers, to deny the use of this vital commuter and recreational link. It will also deny access of choice for New Yorkers to explore the natural beauty that is undisputed that many of you all have brought up this evening. In my hand tonight, I have 1,400 signatures from New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs with a high concentration of Bronx residents who have spoken out in support of the Parks Department proposal to complete the Putnam Trail, and I would like to hand them over to you tonight for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
11 years ago, when I needed to leave Manhattan to find a better place to raise my children, I was looking for an environment that was a little bit different than New York City. I went all over the metro area, and then I visited Van Cortlandt Park. and specifically the Putnam Trail. But what is so unusual about the Putnam Trail is that it's irreplaceable, and that makes it important. It's a mile and a half, of a place that future generations deserve to have an opportunity to experience true, unadulterated, pure nature. It's pure New York. It's not manicured. It's not polished. It's something that low-income residents, and specifically low-income children, can't have the opportunity to experience anywhere else in New York City, in an easily accessible environment that's flat, in the Bronx. And for that reason, 2 years ago, a good friend of mine and I decided to create a website called Save the Putnam Trail. And so here we are, kind of the last decision. You know, is the Putnam Trail this very unique place that could be improved with stone dust, a viable ADA-compliant surface that serves all users. I'm standing up here in front of everybody and in front of you to ask that you preserve this environment for the future children who will never have an opportunity to see a true place in nature. Thank you.
Thank you.